Can everyone see the dwelling tab or dwelling marketing flyer?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
see it. Like,
It's small.
Okay, perfect. Let me see if I can help. Okay, hopefully that helps a little bit.
Much better.
But a little bit about the company. We are owned and operated by Warren Buffett. We're an A++ rated carrier based out of Omaha, Nebraska. My regional office, which is part of the Great Lakes region, is actually in Chicago. And then, like I said, I work from home here in Circleville. The largest area of opportunity, and why, despite us being a carrier, this is why I always tend to connect and meet with personal lines teams as well, is dwelling business. Whether it's a rental dwelling, a vacant dwelling, a remodeling risk, Airbnb, VRBO, student housing. If it's 1 to 4 units per structure or 1 to 4 family dwellings, we want to be that number one carrier within an agency. It's quote online, it's bind online. We have much higher commissions, as you can see here. This is where we really want to focus on growth with any agency partner. It's about 65% of what we write here in the Great Lakes as far as commercial property goes, with vacant commercial buildings being about 20%. So this is definitely the focal point. A few highlights, available in multiple, all but Florida, Texas, and Hawaii. Like I said, it is rated online. Direct bill is available. The minimum down payment's 20%, but we have a monthly pay plan option for those who want to take advantage of that. And then there's also some of the guidelines to touch base on. The $1,000 minimum premium per policy is typically a sticking point for some on the personal line side. A lot of times, if you're writing a home and auto, they may only have one property that they rent out. And a Foremost or American Modern or another competitor like that is at $600 or something. In the event you're trying to upsell, the company and the coverage, we're going to be at least $1,000 per policy. Now that's not per location, that's just per policy. So once you get a higher TIV or a schedule of properties, that tends to be where we do the best from a competition standpoint. One of the reasons that our vacant property is such a high selling class is we don't have a minimum earned premium. And so we, in lieu of offering a 3-month or a 6-month policy, everything we write is annual. There's just no minimum earned premium. We do write in all your protection classes. 9s and 10s are fine. We'll write a wood burning stove in a log house in a PC-10 as long as it's not the primary heat source. We see a lot of that with cabin rentals and vacation rentals in Hocking Hills area. The ability to cover high value properties. We have a max TIV of $50 million, so there's not a whole lot from a coverage standpoint that we're afraid of, providing the building is worth that value. Another big topic or another big highlight is there's no max number of properties. If it's somebody that buys and sells a lot of properties each month, that's not a problem. We do have monthly reporting available to where you send us a spreadsheet once a month with the properties that were added and the properties that were sold, and we're able to endorse it in one process there and issue the new policy. There's no age restrictions as well. I say that with a little bit of an asterisk beside it, because if you have a property that's 70 years or older, we're going to want to see that it's had pretty much a full gut rehab within the last 25 years before we get a special form. We'll write ACV basic pretty much all day long on older properties. However, to get special form replacement costs, we do want to see that full gut rehab. And it says, we can go up to 4 units here. From a vacant building, it's got a little area here that states, did your vacant building just get rented? So a lot of times we will have individuals that flip properties, And so they will have an active policy for what they're remodeling, the properties they're remodeling, and they'll have an active policy for the properties that are occupied or rented out. And then it's just a quick email over to our BH services at bhhc.com that states, hey, location 5 on this policy is now being rented out. Please endorse it over to the active policy or the other occupied policy. And underwriting can handle all that without having to create a new quote or create a new policy or anything like that. As far as variety of ownerships, we are able to write individuals, corporations, LLCs, estates, trust. There's a lot of different ownership types that we're able to write. Our dwelling business does default to GL up to $1 million, so $1.2 million as far as the limits go there. Any questions in general here on the overall dwelling program? I'm going to dive a little deeper into the remodels and each individual class within dwellings, but any questions before we get going too much further?
Nope. You answered my question about ownership, individuals, LLC. So that's a question I have, but you just answered that, so we're good there.
Absolutely. And I'm going to run, after I go through these flyers here, I marked down for an hour. I don't think there's any way we'll take an hour unless you have lots of questions, but I just wanted to be safe from my scheduling standpoint. So dwellings is the lead product, and what I think the focal point for this team will be. This is a flyer that's specific to remodeling risk. This has become, 4 years ago when I started with the company, we would only write a vacant property if they were, or a remodeling project, if they were just doing cosmetic updates like paint, trim, carpet. We have since expanded that. We are able to write remodeling risk that are up to $5 million in renovations. However, we want to see that the value of the building prior to the remodel is at least 100%, or is at least that same value. So if you have a $500,000 purchase price and they're remodeling, the max we would go is $500,000 in a remodel. We don't want to see the building purchase price be less than the renovations. That's a little larger than what we're looking to write. From a GL standpoint, we can still typically write the premises liability on a remodeling risk as long as they're just doing those cosmetic updates. I think the threshold, which isn't written in stone by any means, but the threshold is typically around 40% renovation to value. So if you have a $100,000 property, they're putting $40,000 into it. That's about the max we'll go and still be able to write the premises liability. If they're doing a larger renovations like tearing out walls or, gutting it, that's going to just be a property play for us. Exposures to avoid with this remodeling risk. The movement of load-bearing walls. Any property where they're moving load-bearing walls or they're adding to the structure itself, we're not going to be a fit there. Ground up new construction, same thing. We're not going to be a market there. That would be better suited for a builder's risk policy as opposed to our remodeling risk. But one thing I do want to mention in regards to an overall builder's risk policy is we tend to write a lot of those. And I know this has happened to me myself as an agent, but you write a ground up builder's risk on a new construction and you write an annual policy, and then you get to that 1 year mark and they're not quite done. They need about 2 more months. You don't want to write another full term builder's risk policy. We're typically able to write a remodeling risk in that case, so long as the building is completely sealed off from the elements. If they still don't have the windows in or the house sided, something like that, we're not going to be a fit. But if it's just a few cosmetic changes that they have inside the property, then that is typically something that we're able to take on. Bear with me 1 second.
Is there a time frame for when those repairs need to be done?
There's not. So long as we know about the length of time up front, underwriting has that. Bear with me 1 second. I'm going to get my dog and put it up.
Take it away, Rick.
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, everybody. Everywhere you go.
Send
That
a
was
donation
lovely.
link.
That song made
Okay,
me
sorry
suck my
about
dick
that.
yesterday.
That's all I know.
Anytime we get packages delivered, the dogs go absolutely crazy. So I apologize. Everybody still with me?
We're here.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions as it relates to the remodeling risk? Any appetite related questions? Any eligibility questions?
I'll ask
Alright.
one here, Kyle. So as far as some of those renovations go, I mean, what are they looking for? Just like paint and carpet? I mean, what is
Yeah,
there
I
an
mean-
extent?
From a cosmetic updates, paint, trim, carpet is typically what we're fine with a GL on. If they're, like I said, if they're knocking down walls or, tearing out a bathroom and putting in a new shower and all that, that tends to get a little bit larger than what we want as far as the GL goes. But we're completely fine with the renovations up to 100% of the property.
I have a quick question, Kyle.
Yep.
Will you be able to send us these pages that you're looking at? They really have very good bullet points, and it's a good reminder of what you're looking for and what you're not looking for. And I was just wondering if that would be made available to us.
Yep, absolutely. I will send out a recap to Nick, and then he can forward out to the teams. But yes, I will make sure that all of these are available because, correct me if I'm wrong, but this team will just be working on our dwelling product, correct? No commercial auto and no commercial property outside of the dwellings?
The majority of this team, yes.
Okay. If there's any additional questions as far as commercial auto or commercial property outside of our dwelling program, I'm happy to answer that as well. So moving on to the rentals, this is pretty self-explanatory as far as the rental dwelling goes. The one thing to note, we do want to keep occupied properties and vacant properties separate. And the reason being is if we have a vacant property on an occupied schedule, then the vacant form applies to the entire schedule. Student housing is another area. If you happen to write some rental properties around the Ohio State campus or any campus really, we are a market for student housing. It has the same eligibility guidelines as a typical rental dwelling, no more than 4 units or 4 kitchens per structure. Now, the one thing I will mention with student housing is for frat houses or sorority houses. We still will write, we just wrote one up at Bowling Green that was 18 bedrooms and 2 kitchens. We would go by the kitchens. So if there's not more than 4, then we're okay with that. We don't consider each bedroom a unit when it comes to student housing. We're not going to write your larger dorms, but we can pick up quite a bit of student housing, whether it's on or off campus. And then vacant, again, I know I couldn't highlight it on this, but vacant properties, there's no minimum earned premium. So in lieu of a 3 or 6 month policy, we're writing an annual policy on a vacant and then prorated canceling at the time it's sold or rented out or whatever it may be. Any questions before I dive into the website? All right. Let me bring up our website. So everybody should have a user ID and password now. The user ID is going to be your email. The password is emailed to you from our PC client services team. So log in. In the event you didn't get a password, you can go right here and click on log in and then forgot password, and it will send you a new one. I'm going to turn off the camera just so it runs a little quicker. All right, so this is our website. Once you log in, your 3 raters here in the top: auto, property, and express dwelling rater. Auto, of course, is going to be used for non-fleet commercial auto 1 to 10 power units. The property rater is used for all classes outside of a dwelling, but if it qualifies as a dwelling, meaning 1 to 4 family dwellings, this express dwelling rater is the portal that you would want to use there. Going down the tab, big thing to point out here: manager policy auto, manager policy property. In the event you have an enforced policy and you need to make a change on it, or you need to make a payment, or you need to go and print off a deck page for a bank or something like that, all of that is done through manager policy. Within our website's marketing materials, this has different flyers, product availability by state, different commercial property, kind of like what I was just showing, our overall commercial property appetite. It talks about our renewal process. It talks about the different classes that you can rate right online. There's a number of valuable marketing materials here on this tab. Submission portal. This is, well, I'm not going to enter it because it'll take a long time to load. That is going to load up all the agencies nationwide, but submission portal you can click on and it will pull up a list of submissions for your agency. And then if there's an underwriter name attached to it, you can tell that it's been picked up by that particular underwriter, and you can reach out to them. You can update it with like a need by date, or you can update it with a target premium. Video library. This is a pretty cool tab as well. It's got a number of just different product demos. You can watch a quick 2-minute video on how to quote through express dwelling rater. It's got submission portal, product demo, Breeze, which is our auto system, manager policy. It will show you how to go through the billing. It'll show you how to print policy documents. You can give insureds online access and they can go in and check their balance and, I guess take a look at the pertinent information to them. So a lot of good things there, but I'll actually do a little live demo here for you. Fine. There we go. Okay. So I'm in here, I'm ready to quote a dwelling. Go to the express dwelling rater. So if you click on express dwelling rater, it'll take you right into a quote. If you click on the property rater, it'll take you to a landing page where it says start a new dwelling quote or start a new commercial property quote. So first thing on the express dwelling rater is your effective date. I always recommend a few days out, unless it's something that you absolutely need that same day. And the reason being is our marketing message is typically 24 to 48 hours from a turnaround time standpoint. Do we get them back the same day? A lot of times, yes. But there are some, especially depending on the year, like right now, we're absolutely slammed with submissions for 1/1 effective dates. And so if it's something you need same day, you'll definitely want to get a hold of me in order to get that pushed through. The way this system works is you just keep working down the page. So effective date, and then business type. Here's where you would select the individual corporation, LLCs, and a number of other lists. There's schools, partnerships, a number of items. Do an individual, then clause. Santa is buying a property in Indianapolis. So once you type in the information, you're going to get the rating. Here's where it's asking you to classify this risk. So the top class is the top row, no issues there. Rental dwelling, 1 to 4 units, a secondary home, vacant dwelling, or vacation rental like Airbnb. We do write condos and townhomes. We're not a market for primary residence. We're not a market for 5+ units. And then there's all other commercial. If you click on all other commercial, it's going to take you into the property rater as opposed to this express dwelling rater. We've got a standalone dwelling. Sets risk type. Here it's asking, is it Airbnb, VRBO? It's asking if it's student housing, and then how many units are in that property. Finish adding the location. This browser message will come up if you're not in Firefox or Chrome. We are working to become more compatible with a number of different sites. This defaulted to Edge, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue, but Firefox and Chrome work the best. So you can see here, it's pulling a lot of information for you. It's pulling your construction type. It's pulling the protection class, the year built, stories, square feet. We're even pulling values. Now, the one thing I'll say is there's no link to like an MSB or a replacement cost estimator. It's all done behind the scenes. Anything with a dotted line, you're able to change. So if you want to change the limit, if you want to change the deductible, if you want to go in and change co-insurance amounts, you can change it from replacement cost to ACV, and it'll change the value for you automatically. Building updates is very important. I would always try to get into the habit of finding this information out for the plumbing, the heating, the electrical, and the roof, because that is what determines if we're able to offer special form versus basic form in ACV versus replacement cost. We want to see those updates within the last 25 years. Business personal property is going to be your contents on the personal line side. Business income is going to be your loss of use on the personal line side. If you don't want this particular coverage, click on the green button, it'll turn it off. Click it again, turn it back on. And again, anything with a dotted line, you're able to change. So all of those fields are editable. If there's multiple locations, you can click here for location number 2 to add another property. If not, you can continue scrolling down to coverages. So like I said, we do default to $1.2 million on the GL. Equipment breakdown, you can turn it on if you wanted to add some additional coverage for equipment breakdown. And then underwriting questions. 3 main questions required here. Are there any losses to report? If there are, obviously click here. If not, check the little box and it'll let you go to the next question. What's the current status of the policy? Is it in force? Is it a future pending purchase? Is it already with us or has it been? Is it facing cancellation? What's that current status? And then renovations. Here's where you have the chance to explain to us what's going on in the event it's a remodeling risk. You can click here to report renovations and they ask the anticipated completion date. They're asking the total cost of the renovations. And then there's a quick box here to explain what exactly they're doing. If you get to this screen and then you figure out they're actually not doing any remodel, you can just click remove renovations and it'll go back and click no renovations to report. From here, the final few screens are under the review tab. So a lot of times agents think they're done when they get to this point, but you have to click on finish and review. From here, there's 5 quick screens. There is the mailing address, which I'll try and go through. So once that's entered, you'll see how the green check mark pops up under contact info. You can then confirm contact information. Here's where it's asking the current status of the policy and the expiration date. And then if there's any other notes that you want to enter here. Document uploads. We do not do inspections on dwelling properties, but we do require front and back photos within 20 days of binding. A lot of times agents will have those up front, so you can attach the photos here. If not, no files to upload. Here's where you would add your additional interest. Something else to note there, if you've got multiple LLCs that are common ownership on properties, you can list the different LLCs as additional interest or additional insureds. Confirm additional interest. And then the final screen, there's a big push right now going on with dwelling and typically newer dwellings to where we want about 30 to 40% of those accounts qualified to bind right online. It's still in the pilot stages, but that's something that we anticipate coming out in 2022 is more accounts like this one that are going to qualify to be bound right online. So you'll get a bind quote option, or if it doesn't qualify to bind online, it'll say submit to underwriting for review. You can still submit a bind eligible account to underwriting, or you can save it for later and come back in. They did the demo that they did for this express rating system is located in the video library, but it takes about 2 minutes to go through. If you're not sitting here explaining each screen like I am, it takes about 2 minutes to get a quote on the property. So ease of use is a big focal point, as well as speed to market. That's why we created the express dwelling rater, and it continues to be the largest area of opportunity for us. Any questions?
Kyle, this is Mike Kelly. You just mentioned about no inspections. That is a big deal for us because many of us work from home and we never go to take pictures of our client's home that we're quoting. When I was at Farmers Insurance, we did that at Farmers. I'm thinking then a workaround would be to have the client take a picture of the property, because we don't do that. We don't take pictures of homes. What do you suggest we do to get that done?
Yep. So clients taking a picture is absolutely fine. They can text them to you, or we've relaxed our stance a little bit. We're not really chasing photos on newer properties, but if they're older than 70, that's when we're asking for more photos. We'll also take online photos. If the house was recently for sale, and you can go on to realtor.com or Trulia or one of those websites, and there are nice pictures, we will accept those as well.